Well, hello there, guys. What is up? Eric Donatowski here with you today. I want to do something a little different. Typically, I do artwork, art drawing stuff. But so I'm watching Loki, and really, really enjoying it for the most part. And in the last episode last week, there's a really cool exchange between Mobius and Loki, and I just kind of wanted to go through it because every now and then you'll find whether it's movies or TV or it could be a comic book, you have this kind of intersection of reality or theology with fiction, and sometimes it's kind of cringeworthy and it's kind of like, oh, like they totally jack that up. But sometimes it's almost like a window into reality. And so, as a Christian, I hold a biblical worldview, and when I see things and hear things like this, it's like, wow, let's take a look at it. Is it accurate? When you apply it to a biblical thinking, or is it just way out there? And I thought this exchange between Mobius and Loki was actually kind of accurate and could bring up some cool talking points. So let's check it out. Let's go through it. Again, I want to do something a little different, and my camera's off. I want to engage your minds rather than your eyeballs and your eye sockets. So let's take a listen to the exchange, and I'm going to comment, and we'll talk about it. I'll give you my views, my ideas, and you can comment down below if you want to engage in the conversation, and let me know if you like this type of video. I can definitely do more like this, but I thought it would be fun. And again, I love this kind of stuff. I love talking theology. I love talking Bible stuff. So let's check it out. And also, to set it up, it was cool because they start talking about the simple, a jet ski, and Mobius is like, oh, I love it. Its form and function, came together in the 1990s, and they made this beautiful thing called the jet ski. And Loki's like, well, have you ever been on one? And he's like, no. He would love to, but no, he can't do that. So we'll pick it up there and listen to his reasoning why he hasn't done it. But we'll jump back and forth, and I'll kind of just give my comments and everything. So, all right, here we go. Turn up my volume.
I think a TVA agent showing up on a jet ski on the sacred timeline, that would create a branch for sure.
It'll be fun, though.
Yeah. It'd be really fun.
So the idea is, as a TVA agent, he just can't go jump on a jet ski because that would be outside of the timekeeper's, plans for him. And you kind of get the idea that all the TVA agents were created by the timekeepers, and that their jobs are to go out and make sure everyone keeps time. And if you deviate from that time, you become a variant, and you create this deviant path. And obviously Loki in the show is a variant. He's called a variant because he's deviated from his set path. And so here we have Mobius kind of saying the same thing. Basically, he doesn't have that free will. And so they kind of get into that a little bit later, but I thought that was an interesting take there. All right, let's keep going.
So why read about them?
It just helps remind me of what we're fighting for.
I mean, you really believe in all this stuff, don't you? I don't get hung up on believe, not believe. I just accept what is.
3 magic lizards
Timekeepers.
created the TVA, and everyone in it,
Right.
including you.
Including me.
You see, every time I start to admire your intelligence, you say something like that.
So Loki keeps referring to these timekeepers as 3 magic lizards, which is kind of funny. You see these statues and stuff, and whatever. I don't know if they look like lizards or not, but he keeps calling them that. So you kind of have in this discussion, Loki's kind of taking the part of the non-believer, if you will, and Mobius is the believer. And so he's trying to, make Loki see his point of view and where he's coming from. And Loki's like, every time you start talking like that, when I begin admiring your intelligence, you say something like that. So, all right, let's keep listening.
Who created you, Loki?
A frost giant of Jotunheim.
And who raised you?
Odin of Asgard.
Odin, god of the heavens, Asgard, mystical realm beyond the stars, frost giants. Listen to
It's not the
yourself.
same. It's completely different.
No,
It's not the same.
actually, it's exactly the same thing because
That's pretty funny. So he's trying to tell him, like, look, you come from all these divine beings too. Like, why is this so hard for you to understand? Like, you're Loki, and you came from a frost giant of Jotunheim, and Odin, the god of heavens, raised you. But yet he can't believe that in the Timekeepers for some reason. So obviously it's a little bit different. Again, it is fiction, but the correlation, I think, is to the Timekeepers and to God. You have these three magic lizards, the Timekeepers. In the Bible you have God the Father, you have the Son, and the Holy Spirit. This triune God who created everything. So kind of interesting there. So anyway, Mobius is like, it's the same thing. What are you talking about? So let's pick it up there. Let's see where Mobius goes from there.
if you think too hard about where any of us came from, who we truly are, it sounds kind of ridiculous. Existence is chaos.
So if you think too hard about where any of us came from, it kind of sounds ridiculous. So, I mean, I don't think it's ridiculous, to believe God created me, but let's just go with that. I think there's only two ways of thinking about where you came from, really. I mean, there's either the evolution view of you came from a big bang, or you were created by the divine. Now, obviously, we could talk about all the different creation stories and divine beings, blah, 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 but I only believe that there's one. There's only one God, creator of heaven and earth, who created all things. So let's just go with that. There's only two. You either believe in a divine or you believe in a big bang, right? And he says if you truly think about it, it sounds kind of ridiculous. And in one regard, yeah, it does, because whether you believe in creation or you believe in evolution, there is that essence of faith, because no one was there to see it, right? No one was there to see the Big Bang happen, if it truly happened. No one was there to see physically with their own eyeballs the creation of the world by God the Father, or Jesus. We know that Jesus created all things through John 1, and I believe in 1 John 1 it talks about Christ creating all things. So no one was there to see him do that. So there is that part of, well, it takes faith, right? So sure, it can sound kind of ridiculous, but both of them, whether it's evolution or creation, they both do take faith. The creation, well, people say it's a creation theory, right? But then you also have the evolutionary theory, because it has to be theory because no one was there to witness it, right? Science is the study of things that we have, the things we could touch, we could taste, we could see. That is how you conduct science. You use what we have. So if you don't have those things, you're merely coming up with a theory. And really, you can't test your theory because, well, you can't recreate the Big Bang. I mean, it's, you know what I mean? They've tried on the backs of crystals, etc., but I'm just saying, you can't recreate that. So it is a theory. If you believe in it, you're going to have a little bit of faith. So it might sound kind of ridiculous. Mobius continued, he said, existence is chaos. Nothing makes any sense. So we try to make some sense of it. And he's going to kind of get into more there, but he brings up chaos, right? And so there's this idea of chaos and glorious purpose. Glorious purpose. I believe it was the second episode of Loki was called Glorious Purpose. And then also, obviously he's talking about chaos. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but when you think of chaos, you could think of it in simple terms. Well, everything around us is kind of chaotic, right? I think of my kids running around the house. Life at home can be chaotic sometimes, right? You look outside the house, there's chaos, there's violence, there's fighting, there's all these divisions. It's kind of mad, right? Sometimes it's crazy everywhere in the world. So, sure, there is this chaos around us. Existence is chaos, but there is also order. So talking about evolution, if science is what we can look at, we can measure, I don't believe in evolution because I don't believe the creation around us follows with the laws that are around us. Okay, so for instance, the second law of thermodynamics says that all things tend towards disorder. Okay, all things tend towards chaos, if you will. And I'm kind of paraphrasing, but that's what the law states. So there's this ever-increasing tendency towards disorder. Things break down. Okay, they don't get better over time. They lose energy. They lose their integrity. You take the human body, for instance. Over time, it gets worse. Bones get brittle. Muscles get weaker. Your hair falls out. You get kind of shorter. Your nose, your ears, they kind of start drooping. Okay, we know this, right? If you own a car, you know that a car doesn't get better with age. It gets worse. It needs more maintenance. You need to put more energy into it if you're going to keep it going. If you just drive it and don't do anything to it, let alone put gas in it, it's just going to stop working fairly quickly, right? If you don't keep oil in it, it's going to break down. It's not going to work. It tends towards getting worse, not better, left to itself. Lastly, think about your kids' room if you have kids. If they don't work to clean it up, that thing is just going to get disordered. It's going to get chaotic, quickly. So that's a law, the second law of thermodynamics. All things tend towards disorder. So in evolution itself, you have their theory is that things got better over time. You had simple cells that gosh, I don't even know if they were cells. I'm not sure at what point they say it began. They talk about a primordial ooze. There's a huge, now again, there's nothing, and then all of a sudden there's this explosion, and then there was something. Everything, in fact, all the planets, all the stars, everything came from nothing. So, and then, it wasn't a fully formed man or fully formed animals at that point. It was a simple single cell or whatever, and then it got better. It grew arms, it grew legs, it was able to swim, and then over millennia, it got better, and it grew into something better, man, right? And then all the animals as well. So just taking the one law of the second law of thermodynamics, I mean, on its face, evolution just does not make sense. So, you could look at the chaos, but you could also look at the order, because inside of, the people that God created, there is tons of order. You look at plants even, right? They have this process that they go through, the photosynthesis, the human body. I mean, everything has to be in specific order in order to work. If something is out of step, it doesn't work. So to believe that over millennia and millennia of time, things were put together so perfect that they can now exist and be what they are today. But I mean, at the outset, if one thing is off, that organism dies. It doesn't work. So it's just so incomprehensible to me. Anywho, I was also going to mention, speaking of chaos and then order, the alignment of the sun. If the sun is too close to the earth, we die. If the moon is too close, the earth is flooded. It controls the tides, right? So everything has to be perfect for life to exist. And I believe God knew that. And that's why everything is how it is. That's why plants grow. That's why everything is perfect for life and to sustain life on earth. It was made that way. Okay. You may disagree. That's fine. But let's move on. So, and we're going to get to this idea of glorious purpose, okay? And again, if you believe in evolution and you believe in this huge cosmic accident, you don't really have a whole lot of purpose. You're an accident, right? But if you believe in this higher power, if you believe God created you, you've got room for a glorious purpose, because there's more going on than just, we're all just cosmic accidents. All right, so anywho, let's keep listening.
Nothing makes any sense, and we try to make some sense of it. And I'm just lucky that the chaos I emerged into gave me all this. My own glorious purpose.
So again, the chaos he was born into has given him this glorious purpose. Now, again, I mean, yeah, we're kind of born, even as a Christian, as a believer, you know, we're born into a kind of chaotic world, right? But not a chaos that's like out of God's control. So I have comfort in that, right? But then also I do have glorious purpose, which we'll get a little bit more into. Let's keep listening. And okay, let's listen to this real quick.
Because the TVA is my life, and it's real because I believe it's real.
So that little line, and it's real because I believe it's real, I think that's just something they kind of had to throw in there. That's more of a postmodern thinking. It's real because I believe it's real. Well, reality is not dependent on your belief in it. If you believe the chair you're sitting on isn't real, it doesn't make that chair not real and you don't fall to the floor. So reality doesn't depend on your belief in it. That's like saying, well, that's my truth. You have your truth, I have my truth. If my truth says that the sky is blue and yours says that the sky is purple, well, your truth doesn't make it so. Okay, so reality is fixed. And it is truth. It's true, right? It's not an arbitrary thing. 2 plus 2 will always equal 4, no matter what anyone says. And that's how we have a grasp on reality and how we know we aren't basically insane, right? We have reality as the fixed, right? And so, yeah, so that's kind of a postmodern thing, like, oh, well, I believe it because it's real, or it's real because I believe it. No, it's, you believe it because it is real. So that's just something they had to throw in there. That's just a modern thing, but whatever. God himself is truth, and God cannot lie. So anyway, let's keep going. Let's see what Loki has to say about that. He believes it's real. Okay, let's go with that.
Fair enough. You believe it's real.
Yeah.
So everything is written. Past, present, future. There's no such thing as free will.
Well, I mean, you know, it's an oversimplification.
So in fact, in a way, you and I, here at the TVA, we're the only ones who are actually free.
So I'm not going to get into the whole thing with free will, but let's consider. Loki says, so everything is written, past, present, and future. There's no such thing as free will. Well, okay, so as a Bible-believing Christian, yeah, I believe the past is written, okay? The present and the future. The past, obviously, we could look at the Bible. We see the past is indeed written because, you know, it's written down. We could look at it. All the way back to creation. God told Moses, this is what I did. Moses wrote it down. That's how we know God created all things. And, you know, he kind of tells us how he did it in 6 days. Okay? The present, I mean, we don't have a book that's written in, but I believe that God, you know, if you look in Revelation, he says that Christ was slain before the foundation of the world. Like, us right now sitting here in time, right? Don't forget, God is outside of time. Okay, God, you know, time doesn't constrain God like it constrains us. God sits outside of time. He looks down and he sees everything that is going to happen, and he definitely knows it. Okay, I don't think God like zips in and out of time. I don't know. I've never really thought about that, but I don't think he like just kind of like, oh, I'm here there. Oh, I'm gonna go back to 20 AD. Oh, I'm gonna like he doesn't. You know what I mean? I think things are happening, you know, in a string. Okay, it's like happening in events, but yet God's not. He's sitting outside of it, and he sees all of it. I know it's hard to wrap my head around. I don't want to get too much into it because honestly, there's some stuff that's just kind of like, woo, it's over my head. But I do believe that God is omniscient. He's omnipresent. You know, so thinking about that, God is omnipresent. He's everywhere at the same time. Like, he's with me, he's with you. You're on the other side of the planet, or, you know, down the street. It doesn't matter. He is there because he's not bound by body like we are. He is spirit, and he is so big. It's hard for us to comprehend, right? God is not a man in that sense. God is spirit, right? So he is everywhere at the same time. Just in the same way, he's not bound by time, and he sees all of time like from this distance point of view, where it's like he knows everything that's going to happen because he's the author and finisher of it, right? He's written it in a book. So as far as the future goes, he knows what's going to happen in the future. That is written in Revelation, right? And also in Daniel. I mean, he has visions of things that are going to happen too. So, okay, again, take for instance all the prophecies that deal with Christ's birth and when he is a man and he's on the earth. There's over 400 prophecies foretelling of Christ. And so God is outside of time in that way because he knows what's going to happen. And so he could tell Isaiah the Messiah is going to be born of a virgin in Bethlehem and all these other details. I'm telling you right now, it hasn't happened yet, but it's going to. So God is outside of space and time. So he knows all this. He knows the future. And so it's kind of a comforting thought. Past, present, and future. It's all in his control. And so we could also go into free will. We can go into God's sovereignty. In the example of Mobius himself, he's like, well, I really want to go on this jet ski, but I can't. If I do, the idea we get is he'd be a variant. He'd be deviating from the set path. Okay? Now, I don't think like that. I think like that in terms of sin. I don't want to go kill somebody because that would be wrong. That would be outside of God's will. All right, that's not what God wants. Okay, he has laws. I don't want to break his laws. Okay, so you could think of it in that term. But can I go shoot somebody right now? Sure, I could. I'm not going to, but could I? Sure, I could. Okay, think I could go ride a jet ski. Is that going to be outside of God's will for my life? That's not going to be, I don't think, because that's not, as far as God's will is concerned, God tells us, hey, don't lie, don't murder, don't commit adultery, all these things, right? So that's, I could rest assured if I go on a jet ski, I'm not breaking some kind of cosmic law, I could take comfort in that, and I can enjoy myself and have a good time. But when it comes to, laws, when it comes to free will, it's like, yeah, I'm free. I'm free to pick up my phone right now, this piece of paper, this pen. But in the larger scheme of things, I believe I'm not free to, I don't want to get into all that. There's a lot to unpack there. If you guys like these videos, let's have more of them. We'll chat more about this kind of stuff. But Mobius' response is, it's an oversimplification. There's a lot to unpack there, a lot to get into. I don't believe that there are any rogue people on Earth. You know what I mean? Any people that are doing something outside of God's will. Just real quick, you could think of Job, right? Satan tempted Job and brought all this destruction. He killed all of his livestock. Even his children died. Yet, God allowed Satan to do those things. So, all of that chaos, God allowed it. In the same regard, I think God allowed Adam to sin. So, again, but was it outside of God's big plan? No, I don't think so. So, anywho, lots to unpack there, lots of stuff. I mean, those are big topics we can get into. Where did we leave off? I think Loki says, in a way, you and I here at the TVA were the only ones who are actually free. So, let's see where Loki's going with this. We're not going to get into too much of that. I mean, obviously Loki's got some ulterior motives. He wants to say, like, look, we can go do this. Let's go ride on a jet ski, man. I mean, because we're the TVA, man. We can do whatever we want. But obviously he's got some ulterior motives. But anyway, let's take a listen and we'll wrap it up.
Where are you going with this, Loki?
How does it all end?
That's a work in progress.
Oh, those lazy timekeepers. What are they waiting for?
Au contraire. No, because while we protect what came before, they're toiling away in their chamber, untangling the epilogue from its infinite branches.
I see.
So I'd kind of differ in a way with this because, you know, I don't believe God is toiling away trying to untangle all the craziness. I mean, all things are proceeding as He's ordained them since the beginning of time. So it's not like, you know, He's trying to make all things, you know, better and get all these variants, you know, back in line. Like, no, that's not what God is doing. You know, when Christ died, that was like He said, "It is finished." The glorious purpose that God had put before Christ, He accomplished it. You know, the salvation of man, the redemption from the fall, all that was completed then at Christ's death and resurrection, right? So that's a completed work. However, we haven't reached the end yet, so there's still more going on. Christ says He's up in heaven. He's preparing a place for His followers, for His disciples, and, you know, those that are eventually going to spend eternity in peace. And Mobius is going to talk about, you know, this peace. So that is still to come. But you know, and it's almost like Christ, you know, defanged Satan. You know, He conquered death and sin. You know, so do people still sin? Yes. But the power that Satan had, Christ took that away from him in dying on the cross. But yet it's like Satan hasn't been locked away in the fiery, you know, whatever, fiery lake for all eternity yet. That has yet to take place. So again, we're still waiting for the culmination of all things, for everything that that God has written. But yeah, so I would differ from what Mobius is saying there, but let's keep listening.
So, when they're finished, what happens then?
So are we. No more Nexus events, just order, and we meet in peace at the end of time.
So, I'd agree with that. We, you know, now not everybody, but, you know, those who are gods. All right, so let's, we could, if we wanted, we could talk more about what Loki's about to talk about, which is kind of interesting. But let's take a listen at this, and we will, I am serious this time, we will wrap it up. I feel like a preacher. I'm almost done. But no, really, let's take a listen.
Nice, right?
Only order. Mm-hmm. No chaos. It sounds boring.
I'm sure it does to you.
You know, you called me a scared little boy.
I called you a lot of things.
You did. You're wrong, though. You see, I know something children don't.
What's that?
That no one bad is ever truly bad. And no one good is ever truly good.
So that's a good part to end. That'd be a good discussion we could have about, you know, no bad person is ever truly bad. That would be a really fun topic of discussion. But let's end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, this is just something I wanted to do just because I like these kinds of topics and just hearing, again, I like when you hear stuff from, you know, fictional things that kind of relate to reality, if you will. And so I love that. So I could talk about this stuff all day. But do like and subscribe. Click the bell for notifications. I want to hear your comments. What do you think? How would you differ? Do you believe in evolution? Do you believe in glorious purpose? What do you believe? And do you want to hear more of these videos? Let me know in the comments. I appreciate you guys taking a listen. And till next time, be safe, be well, and endeavor to greatness. Peace.